Delco, welcome to the Monday Nyquil Podcast Show. I'm finally honored to have you here, sitting down with us here.
I really appreciate it, man. Right when I saw the Monday Nyquil podcast, right? Is that it? Monday night?
Yes.
Okay. We'll work it out.
Tuesday morning, whatever you want to call it.
Tuesday, whatever. When I started seeing this and started seeing like the interview process after we did our first interview and things like that, I was like, wow, that is so cool to see all of this happen. And then you invited me back on, and I was really thrilled to do it. Hammer out details and things like that. It'll happen when it happens, and here we are.
And how you
look at us.
Look at us. I need to open up something. Look at us. That Paul Rudd beef. No, you know what? And how you mentioned that it's not even our first time collaborating. Before we actually hit the record button, we collaborated back in February of 2021, where we did this infamous promo where we collabed about how it was like for those of you that are not knowledge of the whole wrestling process when it comes to fighting like an opponent and whatnot, prior to fighting somebody, you do what's called a vignette or like a promo video where you talk smack to your opponent and vice versa and stuff. And so when we did this collab video at first, it wasn't something that we were like had it in mind that we were going to do this or we were going to pull this off. But my God, it was such an awesome video that we did together, man. And do you still remember kind of what going through that?
Yeah, I remember I had a special shirt that I ordered for the I did this thing Pikachu Fridays and things like that, and I had my own not personally made Pikachu shirt, but I had a Pikachu shirt that I wore for the promo. It was special for that one. I was like, nobody's ever seen this one. We're gonna wear this one for the promo.
Yeah,
we're gonna involve my kids. You know, we did this whole little spiel, like, you know, me being a dad and like the things that come into streaming while being a parent and things like that. So it was all fun. I enjoyed the smell out of it.
Oh, dude, and then you just talking smack about the "Let's Go" catchphrase. Oh, I'll never forget. What was it that you're just like, where are we going or something that you were mentioning?
Yeah, where are we going? Like, I gotta know where we're going. I got kids. We got planned. Like, I can't just get up and leave.
Yeah, it's like, do you have car seats? So, what's going on? Come on.
Yeah, now. Like, I who's driving? So it was fun.
Very, very much. And so, like, it was almost an experimental thing too, because when you think of it back, how like now I'm doing these podcast interviews with other streamers, or not even just streamers, but other like content creators or whatnot that are like DJs, fitness influencers or whatnot. With us experimenting that in February of 2021, now it's just like having you here. Is it do you see yourself differently than how you were reflecting of last year? How now, how things have changed for you?
Absolutely. I think that over time we would be remiss if things did not change. And what I mean by that is like I try, and this is over the past 4 or 5 months that, you know, I've kind of gone through this process of changing how I want to do things. And, you know, obviously taking a long time off really helps get some clarity and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that I got a little bit more of an idea of what I want to do. Things change all the time. And, you know, yeah, I think that it changes a little bit over time.
No, and speaking of the challenges and the changes that one goes through behind the scenes, I've a couple months back announced that to the world, basically over on the Twitch community of my House of Slowpokes community, that I'm a father. And so I've been, you know, having my daughter in my life since she was 4 years old, and like having to go through these changes of like making what like things that are priorities, stuff like that. And so for you, Delco, I know you've mentioned that you're currently in a hiatus. Does putting yourself as, you know, being a father first and change all that dynamics of being a streamer coming back to it, or is it something that's something else that's kind of like eluding you back from coming back to streaming?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I have tried to work on. And that is, you know, we look at streaming all the time as, you know, like, oh, this is just like the snapshot of the 4-hour window into someone's life where they are in their element or doing what they like and things like that. And for me, you know, working full time, having a wife who works at night, you know, trying to be a dad, trying to do things, going up against probably like I want to say June is where I kind of cut off a little bit of like, hey, I don't have the energy, the strength, the will, whatever it is to stream as much. You know, there obviously, like I said, there's been a little bit of a change in my behavior when it comes to trying to fit time for my kids.
Yeah.
It's not so much anymore of like, hey, I am over here, they're over there. The way I've tried to talk to my kids and things like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've taken tremendous steps in how we communicate between father and child.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes over a whole like introspective, looking at not necessarily why is my kid acting this way, but more so of why am I bothered by this reaction? What is something, what is the thing that I do not like about the situation? And for instance, like we're doing homeschooling with my oldest.
Okay.
So kindergarten, she goes through this co-op thing where a group of families come together and they do class one time a week, and they go home and have this structured, schooling during the week. And for that, it was more so like, hey, I'm going to be invested in my kids, home life, their school life, and things like that. And it was funny because we brought this up. We're part of this marriage class, and we brought this up because one couple noticed today, and they've been a parent for 12 years, that, hey, it's not the fact that my child is acting up that I need their attention. It's more so I need their attention because what they're doing is distracting to me, and I can't get that thought out. So when I brought that full circle to myself, I noticed that as well. I was like, oh my gosh, my kid, it's like looking into the mirror personality wise and seeing that same thing. I'm like, what you're doing is distracting to me. I can't focus. So I'm going to help. We need to breathe. We need to have a conversation. This is how we do it.
Yeah.
So like I said, 4 months, 5 months, whatever it was, I really tried to sit down and take a look at like, okay, there is something that I need to change, and it's not, I need to change my kid. It's, I need to change my attitude towards being a dad. I need to change my attitude towards parenting. So like I said, cutting short streaming and things like that. Like, yeah, I'll find time. I will make time. I know that for a fact. It hasn't stopped me from playing video games. It's just stopped me from creating the content. Sometimes it's draining, and it'd be like that sometimes.
I completely relate to that, man. Having to constantly put in like post every day to Instagram or something, or update your life, what's happening outside of it on Twitter, or like posting a funny video on TikTok. It's just like a lot of things you have to jumble through and stuff, and you don't have the time in the world to do that, and especially with the complete 180 change that you're doing as a parent. And to be able to do that is remarkable. If you see that from the outside perspective, have you actually taken a glance of that? Like, you know what, like seeing the difference of the changes, and like for you to say, you know what, it's actually working. I'm actually working on bettering the situation as for you and for others as well.
Right. And a lot of that comes into play with understanding not necessarily my own faults, but like for instance, my personality traits and how I am wired and things like that. Like for instance, like I said, we chatted a little bit off camera or off record, not being recorded.
Right, the pre-show, yes, of course.
Yeah, the pre-show. We pre-gamed the pre-show, and I truly believe I have undiagnosed ADHD, and it kind of shows throughout my life in different areas. So like learning how to kind of keep my attention focused with certain things, not necessarily sucking up a lot of the things that I do, but I've noticed that if I know something is going to happen, I'm more likely to do it. Like for instance, we like I'll give you a story. We're going to my aunt's house or my cousin's house for a dinner with my aunt, who is not pretty close to dying, but she's a little bit older. She's 15 years older than my mom, and my mom is about twice my age. So she's pretty old. She's living with my cousin. We're gonna go have dinner, and in the comment or in the group chat between my family and my mom, love her to death, she didn't mean anything by it. I took it as a slight because it was one of those things where it was like, hey, I'll take the kids if Colin doesn't go. And I was like, I never said I didn't want to go. But looking back at my life, looking back at in conversations and things like that, that was how I reacted to a lot of things. Was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. And it was more so like there were certain things that I was like, yeah, I could have gone to that. Yeah, I could have done that. Yeah, I could have done that. And it, like I said, I'm trying to change. I'm trying to better myself. And like I said, coming back from California, I really wanted to be more focused with my kids, more focused with, memories for them. And I really am trying to make an effort, concerted effort towards that position.
Reminiscing of these streams that you were a part of prior to actually going on hiatus, some of them that I caught where the special commentary streams that you were doing between it was Call of Duty and Rocket League. Where the hell did that even come from, dude? Because like I was seeing you play like Escape from Tarkov, and of course you were like religiously playing Rocket League, but then all of a sudden I see you doing commentary, and I'm like, is this guy what did he do this prior to streaming, or how did that come about, dude?
So I have always thoroughly enjoyed not necessarily hearing myself talk, but painting a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, like the radio definitely was something that, like, listening to baseball games, listening to football games, not necessarily seeing the game, but mentally picturing, okay, the Philadelphia Eagles take the ball at the 20-yard line, and Jalen Hurts is in the shotgun formation with what's his face?
The guy with the hair.
Beans, with the tail back to the left. He's now motioning over to the right side. Jalen Hurts is moving him over to the right side, and the ball is snapped, and off we go. And that's like that for me. Being able to describe that in words, giving that person the ability to picture that is just so much like cooler. Now the Call of Duty, I tried breaking out into video games like COD and Siege and Overwatch, but it did not have that same high pace, high octane, quote high octane, because there's an octane in Rocket League, but there's not that high of the energy level. The energy level is not the same when it comes to Rocket League. You could have just not necessarily the worst players in Rocket League,
right?
But you could have players that are at the skill level where I was casting, which is anywhere from Diamond up to Supersonic Legends,
sure,
and have nonstop commentary the entire time, like a play-by-play commentator. And Call of Duty, Siege, Overwatch, all those other things, they're great, but it wasn't like it did not fit the type of casting that I wanted to do.
Right.
And I got interested in it because one of my good friends, who, funny enough, I met through Rocket League. His previous name was Little Slim Thick. Is now XP Slim. Slim is a fantastic individual, great content creator.
Okay.
Definitely is one of the persons that I would say was a mentor for me just starting out. I didn't start streaming until till maybe I did a little bit of streaming back in like the early days, like when I had just an Xbox and a Kinect. I got a Kinect from my buddy Big Tweezy, and I was streaming from my Xbox, and I had a little camera from the Kinect, and I would play Rocket League, or I'd play this, or I'd play that, and that's how I started. But fast forward, I didn't actually start streaming on PC until obviously COVID hit, and I was like, oh, I want to get a PC because I'm not going to have to constantly upgrade, constantly do this, constantly get a new system. I just have the one, and I'll upgrade parts here and there. Well, 2 PCs later, and I've now spent more than I ever have on any type of console.
Totally worth it now.
Absolutely. I remember the first day I got the PC. The first day I got the PC, I didn't have the nice monitor. I had a 75 hertz monitor, and I kid you not, I was like, oh. I loaded up Rocket League, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Kid in the candy store. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude, I was just absolutely blown away by the amount of quality picture that I was receiving from just playing Rocket League. And that's nothing like, oh, I got to see a guy a million miles away before he shoots me. Like that was just a car driving in a field while hitting a ball. That's all that was. It wasn't anything crazy. So just seeing that, it was like, this is it. This is it. This is where I'm headed now.
Yeah.
So, that whole early days of stream meeting Little Slim Thick, that's where my casting, my color commentating, whatever you want to call it, started. He started in, I think, March of 2021.
Right.
And then I think shortly after I applied to IGL, rest in peace. And they were like, yeah, sure. Like, you got to show us that you can cast. And I was like, I've never casted. Nobody's ever asked me. So I asked Slim, I was like, hey, you mind if I cast one of your matches so I can get my foot in the door? And I think that was the first YouTube video that I uploaded, was because I needed to show proof, and I couldn't just upload a video.
You needed that
so
demo.
I had to post it to YouTube, and then I sent them the link, and they were like, seems good, type of thing. So and then I think I was casting. Oh my gosh, I think I casted probably about 3 to 4 matches a day.
Wow.
5 days a week.
So how many do you have under your belt then?
Oh, I've definitely have over 100. I can tell you that.
Wow.
And it's honestly like it's that number is just so like, it's not weird, but it's one of those things like, that's looking at it like that. That's not a lot compared to like what some of these other casters have.
Oh,
I mean, seeing some of these casters, dude, I don't know how they talk that long. Now granted, I do a extremely different style of casting. I'm just constantly trying to talk, because the dead space for me, not having that secondary caster, is very difficult, and that dead space for me is just awkward. I have to fill it with something.
That dead air space. Okay, so you're only doing these solo commentating play-by-plays then.
Right. Okay. And trying to break out from IGL, because I knew that as good as I had it, as good as all that practice and everything was, IGL was not where I wanted to be as far as like a casting. So like applying to different leagues for casting and things like that. I was able to get into the XP League for Call of Duty, and I just did not, like I said, it didn't mesh well with me. I did like a tournament or two.
Yeah.
In COD, which is where, I took extreme liberty with myself, where I was the one that was streaming it. I was the one that was, like, hey, I want to do this. Can we do this? Yeah, sure, go for it. So we'd had interviews with players. We would drag them in and have kind of interviews with them. Like, hey, so you were down, kind of like in between periods for hockey, or in between innings for baseball, things like that, where we were trying to get this interview process of like, hey, so here's some things that I was saying. I noticed that like you were using this gun, and you seem to do extremely well, and then you went away from it. What kind of changed your mind from that viewpoint? Why did you feel like you needed to change something to get something else going? And
right.
There would have the conversation. There would be the content, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great time. And then finally, I kind of got away from that, and I don't know how I found out about this other league. The Minnesota Championship Series is where I reside now.
Okay.
I constantly cast for them every Saturday. I am not necessarily penciled in, but not written in stone either. Sure. I am like, hey, you're good for these 2 matches, right? Yeah, sure. And I am alongside of another caster, and we cast 2 matches, and we kind of bounce each other. It's a different caster just about every single week. So I'm thoroughly enjoying myself casting for the Minnesota Championship Series over on Twitch, and they are seeing some of these players. I'm like, there's no way that I can compete with these guys. But I love seeing this action. This action is by far my favorite type of action. So it's been a while. It's been a ride. Starting from IGL and then going all the way to a league where they have LAN events every single year, or every single end of season. Their season runs from X to X, and they get together and have this LAN event, and it's a crazy type of scene. there.
So then what are some of the pros and cons when it comes to actually commentating and being a part of, like, you were part of 2 different leagues, and so, like, can you do some like comparisons between the two? I mean, what managed better than the other, or like what more of a challenge you had with one and the other?
So for me, there were a couple different things that I really liked about IGL, and there were a lot of things that I liked about MNCS, that's Minnesota Championship Series. So I'll just refer to them as MNCS. So IGL, they have like this call sheet almost. So like you put in a time and somebody's able to fill it, but you can't fill it within 3 hours. So that means, again, this is why I didn't. The pro was the call sheet, being able to say, "Hey, I want to work these hours," and you could choose to be paid for a special request. I didn't do that because it was just like, "Hey, what do you want me to do? Is there anything special you guys want me to do? Do you want me to have a logo? Like, if you tell me that from the beginning, I'll let you know, and I'll be able to. I'll try to work it in." But the thing that I didn't like was, like, if you didn't get anything and 3 hours out, like, oh, hey, you got a cast. Well, something came up. I'm not able to cast.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a pain to kind of, cancel things and move things around and so on and so forth. But MNCS, I'm gonna tell you right now, dude, they have everything figured out. They are top notch. They are leagues above some of these other individual leagues.
Right.
They have a draft every year. They have cap space. Like it's like, hey, not like actual physical dollars, but like, hey, this player is worth this much and you have this much space. So you can have a really great player like A.O. Stein, or a really great player like Dorka and what's his name, Burf, and this play. So like being able to cast and have all these players, like, it's like, it blows my mind, dude. Some of it's seeing these players work together. It's always something different, and it's almost like it's like watching an actual live sport where, like, you see the stories being written, like the history of a team's ups and downs, following that team all year long through three different leagues. They have rising stars, they have challengers, and then they have what's it called, the Premier League. The Premier League is the one I cast, and I thoroughly enjoy it because, again, these guys are GCs, grand champs, all the way up to SSLs, and they are just high flying action all the time, and it's just absolutely insane.
That is mind blowing, dude.
It's awesome. So like I said, the pros and cons through different leagues. The MNCS has very many pros. One big con is that they're located in Minnesota. So what that means for me is I'm not able to go to the LAN unless, like, I plan, like, hey, your season ends, your championship is this date. You tell me, like, I'm gonna buy a plane ticket. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to cast. These are some of the things that I'm going to need. Yeah. And, the logistics things, that's the only not terrible part. That's the only con part of the league, in my opinion. So that they're located in Minnesota.
yeah. It's just like, you got to, like, plan ahead to go
right.
months.
I mean, it's like planning a trip to California. Like, hey, I'm going to go to California this time. All right, let's see tickets.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. Right, I can't shop around the date of the championship series. It's kind of set in stone. So I mean,
it's kind of shoot yourself in the foot if you, like, plan, right, misplan everything. So you can't be doing that. That's insane, though. Right. Like, I did not know how organized this whole. It's crazy. I'm mind blown right now that you're a part of this, man. I mean, like, I'm not saying that I'm not surprised that you are a part of this. Like, I'm very surprised that, like, how much
the level of intricacy.
Exactly. It's like a working machine. It's the machines the parts are working. It's insane.
They had last year, I think it was their fall league,
right,
or their winter league. Their winter league, they had their draft in Minecraft.
What?
So, like, they created a world, they built this whole structure, and they had, like, this team's on the clock for the draft, and they had representatives from all the teams in the Minecraft server, and they all, like, did this. Dude, it was I was watching it live, and I was like, this is the most ingenious thing in the world. But at the same time, like, the level of intricacy is like, bro, that is way too deep. I love it. It's way too deep, but I love it. I'm not discounting it. It's amazing. way too deep.
Right, yeah. You're like, Rocket League sounds okay. You know, all these other games, that sounds fine. Minecraft is just a league of its own.
Well, no. What I mean is, like, they had their draft for Rocket League in Minecraft.
In Minecraft. What the
See? See? That's what I'm saying, bro.
Dude. Okay.
Yeah. So now it makes more sense. They're like, oh, they were playing Rocket League in Minecraft. No. They had their draft for their season in Minecraft.
I mean, that is pretty creative, though. Not gonna lie.
Like I said, I'm not upset about it. That was just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, man. I mean, that still might not want me to play Minecraft, but I mean, that's ingenious, though. I really appreciate that's unheard of, at least from my end. But
right.
So then now that you're seeing all these positives going around, when do you think it was where you started seeing the cracks when you were still streaming, where you know what, like you're missing a stream or canceling something, and there was just a pattern where you're like, something's wrong, and I need to catch it?
So, I would say early June. Early June was where I kind of late May. The wife and kids were getting ready to head to California, and I was kind of dealing with some things in my own, headspace where I was just kind of not necessarily, like I said, going through the motions, but it was just like just constantly just dreading everything. Streaming, I was not having fun. It felt like more of a second job, and I was not enjoying it, and it was more so kind of just like, I don't want to do this. And it wasn't like, I'm going to take a break. It was just walking out into the sunset, so to speak. There was a lot of different things that were going on. I was seeing people do different styles of streaming and things like that. And, work, not that work got too crazy, but I definitely know that I not necessarily try to be something that I wasn't, but I definitely noticed that I was, necessarily, like I said, not overextending, but I was trying to branch out into different communities without necessarily working on not my own, because I like I said earlier, personality and whatnot. I feel that I'm more of a floater than an individual who is like, hey, these are the group of friends that I am going to solidify and be bound to.
Yeah.
Now there are a group of guys that I consistently play with, and that's a group that I would say, yes, these guys are guys that I would play with constantly. On stream, off stream, doesn't matter. But it was more so like playing with, trying to manage time to play with other communities while playing with the boys and stuff like that. And it just, the tank felt very empty. There was not a time where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to play by myself. I'm okay with that. Like, I felt that, hey, the content needed to have a somebody to bounce off of. I was never really good at the solo play game style, which is why, like, when you watch me play games, it was either near the end, it was near the end of the end of streaming before the hiatus. It was more so like, I'm gonna cast and that's it, or I'm gonna play Rocket League and then cast.
Right.
It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna play this. I tried to do certain games, but like playing games like Icarus, which is like, could be a solo play game, could be a multiplayer game.
Sure.
You work together. It was like it was like an otherworldly Minecraft that was more polished. It wasn't like break block.
Yeah.
Put block here. Like, it was like, hey, I'm gonna construct a house. I need walls. I need this. I need that. And you get these materials and you make the wall, and there you go. So I would say that I was never really good at not necessarily playing solo, but it was more so like, hey, I'm not going to play these games because I'm not the best at them. And
it just takes a lot of time to construct.
Right. It was
hours on end.
It was more so me just in my own headspace, not feeling comfortable enough to run a game. Right. Where I would get tilted. Like, for instance, I hardly ever played Rainbow Six Siege on stream because I wasn't good at shooting, at shooter games. And I felt like I wasn't really that great and this, that, and the other. But guess what? I can tell you one thing. I practiced the smell out of aim labs due to Big Tweezy again. Aim labs I was very quick now. I was moving the mouse all over the place and, finding, certain settings and stuff like that really helped me out. And I got extremely better, improving, your kill death ratio. Like I think I made the jump from a 0.6 KD on Siege up to like a 1.2. So like I doubled my KD. So like every round I was either getting a kill or, like every 4 rounds I was getting 2.
Right.
And then, increase from there. And, you build off of that, and constant improvement is what I was working on. And, like I said, for me personally, it was more so like I have to be okay playing solo. And like I said, most of the time it was not something that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that like, I'm not going to, get on stream and, play because I, constantly I've had people come into my stream like, oh, you suck. Oh, this, that, and the other. Like people that I played against. And I was like, bro, like, you're a clown. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, but you're a clown. But yeah, so for me personally, it was more so like, I got to figure out some things, and taking that hiatus, I'm not going to lie, man, it did well for my mental, trying to figure out certain things for myself. Like, hey, this is, the level of stuff that you're able to deal with. And here's how you get to the next level is just kind of working through things, working through, the in your head mental, and then working through that by, hey, I don't like change. And anybody who is in my personal life could tell you, like, what is Colin's, biggest thing is, if you spring something on them, it's like, I don't want to do that. If you let me know ahead of time, like, hey, we want to do this, let me know. There was one rule I had with a lot of casting was, give me 24 hours notice and I will make it happen. I can't stand when people are like, hey, I got a match in an hour. Can you do something? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do anything.
It's like I have a life.
Right.
Hello.
Well, that was the other thing. That was another con that I had of one of the leagues that I was part of. Was like at the drop of a hat, you had to do something. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So that actually was one of the reasons why I left one of the leagues.
Sure.
Was not out of spite, but was out of principle. The league said some ish, or I take that back. One of the boys were playing in the league with us. They had a duos. They had a twos game, and it was like the semis. Well, the quarters. And what happened was, the one team said, "Oh, we can't play. My teammate isn't home yet. Can we reschedule?" Anybody who is an adult, who has a job, who has life, would say, no, I carved out time for this to happen. You need to understand how time works. Well, Lee didn't see it like that and said, your guys are both disqualified. And it was like, bro, like we scheduled this time. They told the caster that the other team forfeited or whatever. So like there was like this whole like long BS thing, and the people in the league were like, we don't want to deal with this. So we're just gonna give you guys both double forfeit and be on with it. And I'm not gonna lie, from that day, I did not step foot back into the casting booth for that league. I did not step foot back into anything. We had an organization in that league, and we pulled the plug. We're not part of this crap anymore.
They left the sour taste in your mouth for sure.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. That was the second time it happened, and I called one of the admins on it. I said, "This is absolute bologna sandwiches." I don't know if I'm allowed to curse here.
You're absolutely allowed to.
This is an absolute bullshit, because you cannot tell me that as an adult, if you were to tell somebody, "Hey, we have a meeting here for this time," that you canceled last minute and you consistently did it. I gave them 3 examples. And they said, "Oh no, that's just there's no reason that happened. It's a fluke. 3 times in 1 year? Come on, man.
Yeah, no.
Come on, man. I had documents and everything like that from previous times before the quarterfinals of like a season before. I was like, hey, I'm gonna hammer this time down, and somebody pulled up at 3 hours before time, 3 hours before the match started. We're like, oh yeah, we're ready to play. It's like, no, you never gave me an affirmative yes or no.
Right.
Like, you can't tell me that is a yes. He's like, well, I work banker hours. And I'm like, dude,
what?
I can I don't care where you work. Unless you're working at a freaking facility that is locked down where you can't have your phone at all.
Right.
I understand that. You work at a bank, bro. You take lunch. You're sitting at the teller like this. I guarantee it. Don't give me that crap. So yeah, there was, dude. I was furious to the point of where I was like, nah, yes. I'm not talking to you. Give me the next person in line from your team, and I'll talk to them. So I was beyond tilted.
Yeah,
so,
you came back with the receipts and everything, man.
Dude, I had it all, and they were like, "Oh, just play the game." Like, no, they didn't give me a yes or no. They said this, and I'm like, "You're missing the point. The point is this," and you're like, "Oh, well, they're kind of close to the point. It's good." You don't want to have to deal with the BS that came along with being a freaking admin in the league. It's your own damn fault. So, like I said, I never went back. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that. I'm glad that I took that fight. Whether or not the outcome was what I wanted, it showed me that certain individuals, you need to just shove off,
just walk away from it. Yeah, you need to walk away from the situations, especially like with you've had great experiences with sponsorships, and I for one. No, well, I'll give you this. No. Let me finish, man. I got you. Hang on. On my part, I was always so envious of you that, like, man, this guy's getting like deals from like cookies and all these other. It's like, well, how is he doing this, man? And I kind of, for one, was like, I kind of want to ask Delco, but I don't want to bother him because, like, he's probably busy doing the X and Y and Z. But at the same time, there was some things that like were trial and errors where like maybe some sponsorships weren't as great as they were, and it's just like, can you take us down that memory road of like your experiences with sponsorships, my friend?
So I have tried my darndest to get sponsorships from not necessarily like top tier companies, but like middle of the road companies. For instance, I'm not going to name the name, but there was a cookie company that I was, I think, third or fourth content creator that got a code. And it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like, 25% off. It was just like, hey, you get a code, and I think I still have the picture on my Instagram. I don't know if I deleted it or not.
Okay.
But I got a code, and it was like, use code Delco at checkout through the Etsy shop. You'll get 10% off. Nothing went to me, and I didn't want anything. I just wanted to, hey, my name is out there, and that was more so how I took the argument to companies. Like, look, I don't care if you give me anything. I don't care if you sponsor me in the way of like, hey, I need a controller. I play a lot of Rocket League. I don't play anything else with my controller other than maybe what game was it? Jurassic Park World Evolution. Or Jurassic World Evolution, where you build your park. It was like Roller Coaster Tycoon for Jurassic Park.
Sure.
There's no other games that I really use my controller for, because switching over from controller to keyboard and mouse, I had full control over a lot of different things, and it was a lot easier. But I pursued partnerships with PDP, which is a second or a third party controller company that produces Xbox, Nintendo Switch controllers, PS4 controllers, and they were Afterglow controllers and just regular controllers. They worked so well, and their freaking customer service was just out of this world. They had an app where you could configure your controller and things like that, and what it was is like, hey, we need proof that your controller's broken or not working correctly, so we can get you out a new one as quickly as possible. So like, it was great.
Yeah.
So like, they said, hey, we need video evidence of you going through the app, and how is it not working properly? You got to calibrate it. If you've already calibrated it and it doesn't work, we're going to send you out a new one. Keep the old controller, because it doesn't work. We don't need it back.
Right.
They send you out a new one, and they said, oh, it'll take at most 2 weeks or business days or whatever it is. 2 weeks, 2 business weeks. So like 10 days at max. I guarantee you the controller would get there in 4 days at least. So like there was a lot of companies that I pursued like that, where I was like, hey, look, I'm really, not looking for anything. I just want your seal of approval type of thing. To say that like, hey, we're gonna attach our name to this content creator, whether or not they have anything from us. I always swore by PDP because of their customer service, because it was out of this world. The amount of time and effort that they put in to make sure that their controllers worked, but also on the same token made sure that the customer was satisfied.
Absolutely,
was a big thing for me.
First
that
things
is
first.
exactly what I wanted in a community.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, you get companies that are just trying to start out, where they had a creator code for, it felt like anybody. And the cookie company kind of went through a weird period where they gave out, I kid you not, it felt like 15 creator codes in like the span of a week and a half.
And that might seem like a little bit though, but in reality,
no. For an Etsy shop cookie company, not like, hey, Enemans is coming to town and they're sponsoring content creators. I don't know if you guys have Enemans out in California, but you know what Enemans cookies are?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, if I do,
Okay.
I'm not really a big cookie fan, but please continue.
So Eneman cookies are these little soft cookies, but they make all kinds of difference. But anyway,
Sure.
So that's like Famous Amos.
Okay.
You know Famous Amos?
No.
All right, that's strike two.
I'm not a big dessert guy. I'm sorry, man.
No, I know. I'm trying to. Okay, for instance, that's like
Give me something relatable.
not necessarily In and Out, but like that's like
licorice and red vines. I don't know, man.
Annie Ants.
Any ants? Okay.
Annie Ants. That's like Annie Ann's coming out and be like, hey, we want to sponsor this content creator, and then giving out 75,000 codes in the first week and a half. Right.
Yo,
how outrageous that is.
Very like outrageous.
So.
Oh my God.
Very, very outrageous. You would give out maybe 750 creator codes, not 75,000.
Sure.
Annie Ann's is nationwide, but even still, that seems like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things like something's going on here. That doesn't seem like a good business strategy. So there was a time where, they gave out the creator codes, and then there was like this, not scandal, but there was this weird thing going on where the company sponsored or gave this creator a code, and then this creator was like, not necessarily doing some weird stuff, but doing like stuff that was not reflecting good on the company, because they had the creator code and then they got blasted on Twitter about it, and they were like, oh shit.
Oh no.
So like so it was something that was like very, very weird. And it wasn't like to a random person, it was like to another code holder that they were like saying stuff to, and it was like, oh, time out, let's bang a T right here. We did not do our due diligence in this, and they just kind of just removed the code from everybody, and
trying to do some damage
I'm not
control.
gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had to do damage control very hard, and the worst part wasn't the fact that they had to do damage control. It was the fact that now the content creators had to do damage control on their own, on top of that company doing damage control, to kind of just make sure that they separated themselves and things like that.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute mess.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie.
How hard was it for you though to basically put that out there to your community?
I was more pissed at myself, because I had the thought of creator code equals more success than you have now. And I think that not was a tipping point, but that was like kind of like not peaked, but that was kind of like I was plateaued for so long that like it started to decline very steadily and slowly after I lost the code, because I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going and making this, try to, do the thing and be this grandeur of a content creator. And it really kind of put me in a spot where I was like, do I even want to do this anymore? Like if other people are going to F this up for me,
right,
without me having to do anything, like, why am I going to go out and try to get these content creator codes and try to, be, that take that next step? And, I'm not gonna lie, dude, it seemed like a very scary decision to make, but it was absolutely like, I was just so blinded, like, oh, I get a creator code. Cool. Awesome. sick. And that was it. Like there was no other thought behind it other than I want creator code, and that's it.
It's like a golden ticket kind of thing, and you're just like, you don't know the downside that sometimes where these situations might even end up happening, and you're over here trying to,
I'm sorry, did you say situations?
Call it that if you will. Yeah, situations that you're trying to basically like dig out yourself out of that hole that you particularly had no problem be a part of that to begin with. It's crazy.
Right.
It's insane. And so for me personally, like I've tried to do like self promo sponsorships. I mean, like they might not end up getting me anything at all, but it's just the notoriety.
What do you mean not getting anything?
I don't know.
Shirt.
What?
You got a shirt from freaking Little Caesars. Right?
What I'm saying is that like you just don't know.
Little Caesars shouted you out and got you a shirt, my guy. Come on. What more freaking notoriety do you need? That was awesome. I was like, dang, bro. They were like, bet, let's get him a shirt. And then you and freaking Domino's, bro. Come on, man.
Anyway, we'll shine a light another time. But this is your episode, my friend. No, this is what I'm saying is thank you. But what I'm saying is
clap button. Hit the clap button.
Insert clap button here. There it is. Okay, there it is. But no, for what I'm saying is that there is the risk taking of people that do these sponsorships. They don't. For your sake, it's like you just want the notoriety, not even like the revenue, like or like him going to get a discount or whatnot. Just like let me help this company up, and then maybe possibly in the future might end up being like a partnership where like maybe some revenue might come in eventually. But that was a risk that you were willing to take, and so that's the learning curve of actually for one that's I don't want to say like a small streamer because you're over here almost sitting at 1,000 followers over on Twitch, but the fact that like you're taking this leap of faith of like you just don't know if this company will succeed or not. And so will that coming back from the hiatus, if you end up returning one day, will you kind of dip your toes on going back into seeking other sponsorships and actually go into that, or will it be something where like, you know what, I'm just going to stay away from it entirely?
Yeah, I think that will be something that I thoroughly look into, and not necessarily do my own due diligence, but kind of do a I think I would rather talk to an individual when they are bringing something up. Like for instance, I'm gonna wait for not necessarily companies to come to me, but I think that not like I said when we talked about groups and playing with people and what kind of led to me taking a hiatus. The idea of community first is something that I want to focus on more than anything else. I want to make sure that I build my community down rather than try to latch onto communities next to me and just kind of be a floater streamer. That's something that I really think will benefit not even just me, but any content creator looking to get into the biz of that idea is like, look, you need to focus. And see, this is what the thing is it took me these 4 or 5 months. It took me that much time to realize that in every business, if you're a salesperson, if you are any type of sales, you have to build down before you can build out. Much like building a house, for instance. What's the first thing they do when you build a house? If you don't know, it's build a foundation. And what they do for the foundation is they dig out where the house is going to go and they pour concrete. They pour concrete, not just like, like a foot. No, they build that ish at least 4 to 5 feet deep.
Right.
That way, the ground around it is solid enough to build up. You can't build up or out before you build down. And I think that's a great way for me to, kind of retrospectively look is I never really invested the time and effort to try and build a community, down rather than out or up. And I think that was a really big thing where it was just essentially like a house of cards, it felt like for me, where not everything was falling down, but it was more so like a deep depressive time over the first month and a half where I was just like, I'm not going to stream it anymore. I don't like it. It's not something I want to do. And then now looking at, going through these valleys and peaks and, the valley that I was in for that month and a half, I was just in not disarray. I was just completely disheveled with different things. Like there was, like I said, being away from my wife and kids for 3 weeks was very, it was very bad. Not because like I just came home and gamed all the time. That was great. I loved that. But it was like, hey, that interaction with the people that you love. For instance, my sister works third shift as well.
Okay.
So like she's out of the house. I'm the only one home, and I'm like, well, this is great. I never went out. I never did anything. There were people that I could have hung out with. There were things that I could have done, and I'm not gonna lie, dude. It was very weird. It was weird. Being alone and by yourself.
In your own thoughts too, as well.
Right. Can be very difficult. But looking at it now, I was like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that happened because it was really something that I needed to like, whoa, let's recalibrate. Let's take a step back. Let's look at things. Let's make sure that we're not, going off the deep end here. And I'm not going to lie. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was something that I really made sure that I was, aware of the fact that like, hey, you're kind of pushing your limits. You're, kind of spending your energy. You're kind of doing this. You're kind of doing that. And having that idea of where the boundaries are is super important.
Yeah. So then now, I guess with this hiatus, what's something where you might end up looking at in the long run where like, what's going to become a priority where like, are you going to be doing possibly like once a week streams or maybe bi-weekly or even with the promotion stuff too, because that's a lot of stuff to balance, especially with like your full-time job, being a husband, being a father, and then just even doing your own activities too. I mean, to follow up with what you were mentioning about like, and by the way, the whole building the house from the ground up was a beautiful analogy, and I truly like understood it very well. Where like it kind of brought a tear to my eye almost because it's just like no one really understands that portion. It's just like, you know what? I want to make it to the top. I want to aim high. It's just like, well, in order to do that, you have to have people from the ground to help you out, to follow you with that, and to hopefully one day you'll lead you to that top and stuff like that. And you can bring those that are with you to you up there. But to follow up with that, I was going to mention how there was something that you mentioned about how with this whole hiatus thing where oh man, I'm even still thinking about how the whole analogy and stuff. It touched me, man. Honestly, it truly did and stuff. And so the stuff that you went through mentally and recalibrating your brain, it is such a almost a remarkable thing that you had to do to yourself, because a lot of times people do get settled for that. They settle where like, you know what, I'm just gonna quit. I'm not even gonna realize the problem. I'm just gonna do like focus on like maybe the medicine isn't helping kind of thing, or just something that they're trying to do else time. But like with you now, is there somewhat of a thought of you coming back where like you want to think things through a lot more better in retrospect of how to balance everything out together?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a great push for me personally to get back to what I want to do. Like I have realized that I'm not going to be the scump. I realize that I'm not gonna be Dr. Disrespect. I'm not gonna be the Tim the Tap Man. I know that I'm not gonna be these content creators, because guess what happened? These content creators have been around for over a decade. And guess how they started? They started with Tim the Tap Man started with vlogs. Dr. Disrespect is building off of the two-time, being the two-time. They're the scump. He built off of CS:GO. CS:GO. He was, or was it Scump or one of the ones? Scump's one of the ones I'm thinking about, and maybe another individual who plays Overwatch. I forget his name. They started off of CS:GO. They were cracked at the game. Tim's in his own league because he started with vlogs, started being goofy and stuff like that, and then just people came to watch him just flub up.
Yeah.
Where people watch Doc, where people watch Scump and all these other content creators, they are absolutely cracked at the game, and that's what they're good at. Me, I know I'm not cracked at the game, and now looking at that, it's like I can now build on that and have this, not this persona, but like this understanding, like, hey, I'm gonna play all kinds of different video games because that's what my brain likes at that moment, not because of I got to get my views up. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. And I think that was one of the things that was my downfall, was like, I tried to play games that I know for a fact I was not good at, thinking I was good, trying to build and create content.
Yeah.
So when I look at that thing, of coming back and recalibrating and things like that. I think it's going to be more so, um, not necessarily popular games, but I'm gonna play games that I enjoy. I'm gonna play games that I am good at, but like it doesn't not necessarily doesn't take much skill. Like for instance, one of the games that I really like to play and want to stream is Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown was a game that my brother introduced me to, and it
Okay.
was honestly, it's like Tarkov, but not.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to like worry about like, oh, I don't have enough money to get a new person. The game gives you people for free,
Mm-hmm.
and so like you have all this stuff, and if you're good enough, you can kind of just consistently play and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
go through the motions. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Rocket League is another one. I think I'm gonna play a lot more solo player games like Resident Evil, things like that, and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I think it going forward, I think it's gonna be one of those things where I'm looking at different ways to just have fun.
It's not even just like having fun wise too, especially in your environment too. I mean, you have little ones
Mhm.
that are running around, and like you have to really
Yeah,
accept that too as well. That like people come
right,
into the stream, they're like, you know what, you're a father that comes first with that. So it's like
right.
with people coming by, it's like, oh, why are your kids allowed? It's like, dude, if you have a problem with that, there's the door, kind of thing.
Kick bricks.
Basically, and yeah, I understand that. I've interviewed Once Upon a Joy. She was a part of the Monday Nyquil Podcast Show. On one of the subjects was talking about how her kids are roaming around. They're on the screen, and then like people have a problem with that.
Right.
It's like there's the door because they come first, and it's like if they're in the middle of the gameplay,
Absolutely.
and if they need their mother to help them out with something,
Hmm.
it's like they're gonna stop what they're doing, and
Right.
99%
As
of the
it should
time,
be.
yeah, exactly, as it should be. 99% of the time, you do have people that are in chat, that are viewers and lurking. They understand that what these things happen. It's
Right.
totally fine. So with that yourself, are you more of an accepting now that that's how your streams are going to be from now on?
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think that, like I said, over that 4 month period, 4 to 5
Mm-hmm.
month period, I took a definite look at how I wanted my streams to be and how I wanted them to look, and
Yeah.
that was a big one. Was I never really necessarily like to talk about my kids on stream just because I'm super cautious about introducing my kids
Yeah.
on stream and things like that. Like, oh yeah, this is my kid. Just because I know that there's weirdos out there, and as a father, for me, that's one of the things where I'm like, I am like, even to the point of me like posting photos with my kids and like putting emojis over their face, just because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I don't want anyone to not necessarily see my kids, but I don't want anybody to know like it goes back to the same thing for me
Mm-hmm.
where parents post pictures of kids on their first day of school.
Right.
And for me, that is one of like, I know it doesn't happen as much as my brain thinks it does,
Mm-hmm.
where like the kid is holding up a sign, their name, their school, how
Mm-hmm.
old, and like all this other stuff. It's like you do realize what you're putting out there could be used to damage not just your kids, but you, like your personal life. Like that is something that I am super cautious of. Now,
Right.
like I
Understandable.
said,
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that like I'm gonna be posting like, oh yeah, this is my kid. This is how much they weigh. This is like all their stats, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's something that I'm gonna be cautious of. Like, hey, me and my kids going for a walk, or me and my kids, outside doing this. The family we're going out to dinner, type of thing. Like, I think I'm gonna be a little bit more lenient on
Mm-hmm.
different things, and what I kind of hold close to my chest, like the cards analogy.
Right.
Some people will show you their cards like, hey, like, I think I got a good pair,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
holding
Yeah.
them way the heck out here. Where it's like me, I'm like
Ah. Yep.
looking at the table, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that, like I said, I think my brain was just more so of a can't do it. Nope, not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And like I said, now I try to speak to my kids in not necessarily a professional manner, but speak to my kids in a more loving way. Like explain to them
Right.
why I'm frustrated. Like for instance, I've had a talk with my 6 year old
Okay.
about different things, like interrupting conversations or asking for this, asking for that. It's more so like let's take a minute. This is what you need to do. You need to go finish this before you can get this. Hey, I have told you 3 times If you do not follow, if we have to have this conversation again, it's not going to be pretty. You're going to have to be in timeout. You're going to have to do this. You're going to, X, Y, and Z. Where before it was just,
muting the microphone and
Yes. So for me, I think it was more so I felt as though I had to entertain chat all the time. And now I'm just kind of like, I don't care.
You gonna like this whether you like it or not. My kids are here.
Yes, my kids are here. In the space that I am in the playroom. I'm in the corner of the playroom. So, sometimes you'll hear stuff like this. You'll see my camera move, and it's like, oh no.
Is there an earthquake happening? No.
Well, the worst part is it's on a tripod. So like the tripod is fairly sturdy, but it butts up against their toys.
Yeah.
So like if they're looking for something and bumps the camera's moving like this, and hey, it is what it is. I'm like I said, I'm trying to become not necessarily more lenient, but understanding that like, hey, my kids are learning how to be human. And I have to not expect adult level interactions with them. I need to understand that, hey, look, it's going to happen. Deal with it. Essentially rolling with the punches. One of my favorite things to do is not improv, but like improv situations where it's like, hey, that's not how I wanted this situation to go, but my brain's really good at coming up with just random stuff. We're going to do it like this. We're going to do it like that. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Audible this, audible that. And, like football casting, like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. Like, oh, he's gone up for the ball and he misses. Like, hey, I didn't expect him to miss, but I have to make that, clear that like, hey, that was a tremendous move that I was not expecting, type of thing.
Always staying on your toes type of feeling.
Exactly. It's something that, like I said, I am trying to understand that. I'm trying to work through that. And right now it's slowly moving towards that. Not necessarily, I'm obviously never going to be perfect, but it's slowly moving towards that idea of like, hey, I'm going to extend this ultimate unconditional love to my kid. And it may have been like locked away in my brain through like the just being in my own head over the last like I said, for however long my kid's been alive. I've just kind of been like, no, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this. And now it's more like, hey, look, listen, here's what I need you to do. I need you to be careful. I need you, if you want to go ahead and try things, run it by me first. If it's like, hey, I want to stick this fork in a socket, probably not a good idea. Let's not do that. You're gonna hurt yourself. Right. Yeah, it's not a good idea. Let's not do. If you want to lick it, still not a good idea. Let's not do that. So like, hey, I'm jumping from couch to couch. Be careful, please.
Yeah.
You just make sure if you're gonna do it, you're careful. Try it. Essentially, I'm employing the method of fuck around and find out.
Essentially, yeah.
Not necessarily like, hey, you're oh, Dad, I want to jump off the roof. Well, why don't you fuck around and find out? Not essentially like that, but like, Dad, watch this, and they, blunder here, blunder there. Like for instance, the other day I was watching Dragon Ball on the couch with my kid.
Okay.
And she was like, I don't want to watch this, and like went to go lay down, but she didn't realize that she was like close to the edge of the couch. And we have a sectional. Well, the sectional's taken apart in two different spots in the house, and the one part she tried to lay down on was part that didn't have the edge. So she went like this and went woof, and just right off the couch. And dude, I'm sitting there. I went.
No, you didn't, this guy.
I did. Are you kidding me? Dude, that was comical. I was like, gee. Like,
there wasn't a worry in the world. You're just like, oh my God, what happened? You okay? It was just like busting out laughing.
I was like, and I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? That was terrible that happened to you.
Let me get this out of my system.
Yeah. So
Right.
there are certain things that I'm trying to kind of not necessarily get under my belt, but I want to make sure that my kids are safe. Obviously,
Number one.
that is the number one priority. Making
Mm-hmm.
sure that my kids are safe, fed, and things like that. But I want to get them to understand how the world works at their age. Not the entirety of the world, but understand that, like, hey, here are some things that we do, and here are some things that we don't.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you can do are very broad, very wide open.
Yeah.
The things that you don't do are like cross the street by yourself. Things that we don't do, run out into the parking lot by yourself. Cars can't see you because you're short. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. Like, I'm sorry, but you gotta stay with us. Now, like, there are certain times where, like, hey, we're walking in the parking lot and there's no cars or anything in a coned off area. Yeah, go for it. Go run to the cone area after we're walking towards it. That's perfectly fine.
Right.
But, like, don't run in the parking lot by yourself.
For on your end, if there ever comes a time when they're older and they see that what you're doing, would you be as a pro of letting them be a part of this whole aura of like what we do here as streamers, or is it something where you're just kind of like, you probably shouldn't? I don't know. It's always a 50-50 thing, but
I'm gonna tell you right now, man. I can't tell you how many times I have looked over and my kid is mimicking what I'm doing.
No way.
Dude, I kid you not. Like, I have a secondary pair. So, like, the thing is with me, I don't really buy the best quality stuff, and that comes bite me in the ass all the time. For instance, I bought, and my buddies will always bring this up. This picture will always float around.
It's embedded.
The group chats and things like that. I bought a pair of Kraken headphones, and they weren't Kraken. They were called. My buddies make fun of it because it was Boot Flakes. It was Butte Flakes. Really weird brand. It was very cheap. That's why I bought it.
Okay, it's off brand. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it was like an off brand thing,
yeah.
And they called it Butt Flakes. DelcoDad's got his butt flakes on. So, like, the whole meme was like these headphones sucked, and so on and so forth. And then I got Kraken ones, and I was like, oh yeah, these are a little bit better, but they weren't like, it did not feel right or whatever. And then I got a little bit of money. I think it was my first Twitch check that I bought these pair of Astro A2 tournament ready headphones. And I'm not gonna lie, they were very comfortable. They were very, enjoyable on the ears. Everything was great about them. But the problem is right where they rested on the ears, they were very soft foam, so like sound would leak out. And having certain mics and stuff like that, like for instance, my first microphone was a $42 Wish microphone. Yes. And I'm not gonna lie, it was probably like I had gone through and changed sound setting. Like, my sound settings, I'm not gonna lie, are probably vastly different than maybe 75% of the Twitch community.
Okay. Just
Just because I invested a lot of time trying to make a $32 Wish mic work properly and work to the best of its ability. Like, I went through the Francois method is what it's called.
Okay.
And the Francois method, I went through hours of YouTube videos, hours of tutorials. Like, I went down rabbit holes for audio just to make sure that it worked properly and it didn't sound like garbage. Man, I can't tell you how difficult I made things to make sure that cheap stuff worked as good as stuff that was probably a little bit more expensive. Like, for instance, I now have a what's called blue microphone.
Beautiful sound, by the way.
It's fantastic. I didn't have to do anything to it. I plugged it in and it was perfect.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I have to adjust the sound, the gain, and all this other jazz. But
those are minor
it was
things,
one of those right.
Yeah.
As opposed to what I had to do with the other mic. I didn't have to do much of anything else, and it worked tremendously. Once I got it on the arm, It was perfect. The banging on the table, the clicking of the mouse. Like, yeah, you can hear it now. You can't hear it. So there was all kinds of stuff that I had to do to make it work, like picking up certain things, like with the Wish mic, and I was like, let's see what else I can do. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see, like cameras. My camera, I had a GoPro for like.
You did.
I think like, dude, I had a GoPro for like months, maybe a year. I had a stupid. I probably have it somewhere over here, but I had a little freaking camera that I paid $50 for at the beginning of COVID, because everybody was going to freaking.
You couldn't find anything during the pandemic, or you
couldn't find anything, and I had a little camera that I had to like position properly, like on my freaking light stand, and like I had to have it in a certain spot, otherwise like it didn't work right. And then like my light went out, and then I had to buy a new. Like there was so much stuff that I bought the cheapest stuff to try to make it work, to try to save money. And, it didn't really work out in the end. I wound up not necessarily paying more, but like I saved up money. I was able to buy stuff. I was able to do this. I was able to do that. And it eventually worked, because I went through and, made sure that the quality, the stuff that I bought was quality. And I wanted to make sure that I had, a good thing going. But to answer your question, all of that stuff that I had bought, that was like not necessarily the best. My kid's like, "Hey, Dad, can I have your microphone?" I'm like, "What for?" She's like, "Oh, I just want to do something." And I look over, and to my right is the kitchen, a little play kitchen. She would sit at the sink. She had my old keyboard, my old mouse, the microphone stand I set up to have like leaning over top, like a microphone stand on my table. She's like, I would look over every once in a while. She's like, "Dad, I'm playing with my friends."
Yo,
just going away,
so
like
cool.
all kinds of stuff. So like for me, like looking over and seeing that, I was like, "You're not ready for this, kid.
You're not ready.
You're not ready for this."
Well, in due time, though. Eventually, though, will that be something?
Yes. Maybe. For me, it's again one of those things that I want to protect my kid as much as possible, and that for me is like one of those things. Like I don't want to see you struggle the way that I did.
Yeah.
But I want you to do what you want to do. Like for instance, growing up, I really wanted to do the things that my dad did. Being in the military and things like that, I really wanted to do that. Now it never really came to fruition.
Right.
I went and saw About a Girl, type of thing, and my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, was kind of like, "No, it's not you. You're not him," type of thing. And
was that kind of hard of a realization though, during that? Or to accept?
Not necessarily. It was more so like it's not a dream that I wish that was fulfilled. It was more so like one of those things where I was like, "Man, could you imagine?" But at the same time, it was like one of those things like, yeah, no. Looking back at it now, I'm glad that certain things didn't happen, because I don't know how my life would have played out had I done those things. And for me, it was just, I'm glad that I didn't, go through those certain things, because life would have vastly been different. And I'm thankful that I am where I am today, because lots of different things along the way, lots of goofy stuff, and I make the most of it. And to me, watching certain things not pan out in my life, I'm okay with it. It's more so not like, "Oh wow, that's a bummer. I'm upset that didn't happen." It was more so like you know what? That's not how I thought that was going to go. But back to the kid analogy, improv, constantly thinking on your feet. Well, that didn't happen. That didn't work out the way that I wanted to. But the situation that I am in now, we're going to go ahead and try to not fix it, but make the best of the situation and hand that we're dealt.
Yeah.
And for me, that was one thing that I was kind of like, you know what, that's not necessarily the best thing that I wanted to happen, but we're here nonetheless.
Absolutely. And you're here working your way up from this hiatus that
Mm-hmm.
A few people that I'll be interviewing here for the Monday Nyquil Podcast Show for season 4 have either completely stopped streaming entirely, or they're also in a
Right.
hiatus and stuff. We have a friend that she recently
Yep.
had announced that she has quit entirely. When coming back, not even knowing when, but it's almost like a guarantee that, hey, probably this isn't for her as an individual to do with this mentally and emotionally. It does
Right.
take a lot. What kind of advice would you give someone that was currently going through the struggles as you were during your hiatus, or currently are right now, but looking either forward to either giving it up entirely, or in your sake, wanting to come back?
So things that I would definitely take into consideration is where you're at in life. I don't like to make the blanket statement that everybody who um, is going on a hiatus or looking to come back from a hiatus is going to have the same individual lifestyle as me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I am in a weird spot where we're looking to, do X. We're looking to, get a house. We're looking to get a new, different things in my life that are going on. I have 2 kids. I have a stable job. My wife has a job.
Yeah.
Things like that where we're like, hey, not everybody's going to fit into this category. But what I
Mm-hmm.
would say is, if you are struggling, where you feel like not necessarily you're burnt out, but you feel like something's off, or like why am I acting this way? I think it's a good indicator that you need to kind of not necessarily take a step back, but you need to talk to at least one other person about it. And it can't be somebody, in my opinion, that you're related to. Because if it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody you're related to, or that you're married to, or that you're in a relationship with, I think that
Yeah.
they're going to try to, no, you're good, you're good, you're good. Not necessarily try to sweep it away, but kind of, you know, uh, be in your corner to like pump you up. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that will give you that extra, um, almost like, hey, we need to break here. We need to pull back a little bit on the reins. We need to relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas them giving you that pep talk is going to be like, all right, let's full gun it, and you have nothing left in the tank.
Yeah.
Um, to give a racing analogy, like in NASCAR,
Okay.
it's almost like trying to skip the. Or I take that back. Like a Cars analogy, where Lightning McQueen's like, no, I still got this. I got an extra lap on these tires. Like, no, dude, we see this happening. We see that
Mm-hmm.
your tires are getting worn down. You're not going to be able to make it,
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. So to have that idea is like, look, you gotta have somebody in your corner that's gonna be honest with you, and sometimes brutally honest. And I think that's
Yeah.
a great indicator of, like, for instance, my best friend,
Mm-hmm.
Doug. He has been tremendous with kind of giving me a clarity with not necessarily my own thoughts, but kind of like, hey, I am feeling this way. What is up? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I maneuver around this situation? And not necessarily he gives me the answer that I want or that I need. It's more sometimes like a, hey, I'm going to point you in this direction, and you can come to the conclusion yourself. Pushing, asking the questions that would definitely be something where you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that. I didn't even see this. I didn't even see that. And it's something that I think that if you are struggling, you got to have that person in your corner who's looking out for you and your mental,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like, oh yeah, you're a great streamer, yeah, woo, type of thing. The echo chamber, so to speak, is not something that you want in your life
Right.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly having not necessarily like dissimilar views or things like that. Like, you got to have somebody who's grounded in the idea of, hey, we are going to do life together. We're going to go ahead and like I said, my best friend,
Yeah.
great person, great individual. There are things that we bounce off each other all the time when we're
Mm-hmm.
talking. And to me, I think that is one thing that you could use tremendously, is somebody in your corner who is looking out for you when you're
Mm-hmm.
not looking out for you.
Exactly, because you need that sort of person, individual that is willing to not sugarcoat anything, to push your buttons, and and it's not out of to make you angry or to call you out of something.
Spite or
exactly. No, it's because they want to be truthful and honest that there is something wrong. Let's check this out together, and if you want to get help from elsewhere, from actual I don't know, someone that's in that position, something, of course, absolutely.
And I think that if we were to take a look at history, in the not olden days, but in the era of like JFK.
Sure.
This is another alliteration that I like to use is like JFK, when he had his cabinet, there were certain people, like for instance, the Secretary of Staff. Okay. That person is like one of the people that has the ear of the president. That is their person that all the bullshit that's below funnels through them, and they decide what's the most important thing that this person needs to hear. And that person is the one of the few people that is allowed to shut that door and be like, well, listen, you you F-head.
Yeah.
Listen, you F-head. You need to get your ish together. And they're one of the few people that get to talk to the most important person in our country like that. And I think that you need to have an individual like that in your life, not just as a streamer, but as a person, where they can go, hey, you need to take the time. Stop this bull crap. You are not in the clear headspace, and you as a person need to understand, like, when that person says that, they're not doing that out of spite, out of trying to get your goad, egg you on, whatever it is. You need to understand that, and that's a powerful position for anybody to have. And you need to trust that person 100%. Like, for instance, there are certain people there's this one guy that I like to see every once in a while on my For You page. I forget his name. His name's like Sam something.
Sure.
And he's a very smart individual in the sense of not knowledge, but he tries to get you to understand very major ideas by breaking it down as simple as possible. For instance, one I'm trying to allude to is the high there's the high trust and high skill graph that he has. And the one was like, you want the person who has high skill and high trust. Everybody wants that person. That person is the person that everybody will go to for just about any situation. Right. There are people that have high skill and low trust. Those are the people you want to avoid. The people who have high trust and low skill, you would rather have the person with high trust and low skill and medium trust and medium skill over the person who has high skill and no trust. And having these two individuals is a greater benefit to your career, to your company, to you as a person, than just somebody who is, yes, I am very talented at what I do, but you can't trust me with my money or my spouse or my whatever. Yeah. Like I can't, if I can't trust the person with my money or my wife or my kids, I cannot trust them at all. And like I said, there's got to be at least one person in your life that you can sit down and say, this is the person that I trust 100%.
Absolutely. And that can be implemented for those that are currently content creators. Right. And of course, it doesn't have to be content creators either. It could be just an everyday Joe, and it's just like, implement that into your life, and for sure things will change for the better. And you'll scour away all these negative people that are in your life, and they're not even supposed to be in your inner circle to begin with. And it's just like, you'll see those that are close to you that will actually love you for who you are, call you on your BS for when the time is needed. Right. And the fact that, like, even like if I have I don't want to say like a part of your inner circle here, Delco, but like it's more like sometimes like you've been gone for quite a while, and there's times where I'll actually go out of my way to be like, hey, you know what? You doing all right? Maybe send you a quick little Snapchat, no shirt on and stuff like that. But it's just like, that sort of thing of like, you want people like that in your life, because it's like truly you meet these people as a content creator on Twitch or wherever it is in your other platforms are that you put yourself out there. You meet these wonderful people like yourself, and it's just like, wow, like I'm really glad to have the time even of you being here on the podcast, and so like to show that like those that are even on the hiatus like yourself, there is still life that continues on. There's still the need of like trying to find yourself and recalibrate your brain and to better yourself and others. And so when you do decide to come back into the streaming platform, even content creating too, where would be the first social media platform that wants you to actually just go out and like lurk and to just wait patiently on to find you?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I've kicked around this idea quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to come back to Twitch, if I want to go and break off into other avenues,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think I'm going to take a very good look at what um, certain platforms offer.
Okay.
Twitch was the easiest, obviously, because it was very basic. It was take this, put this here, and you're done.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's different platforms. I don't know what platforms I'm allowed to talk about on good old Twitch. But you might have to censor this out.
Only
there's other.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Hey now.
What did he say? No, I think it would be remiss if I did not search different avenues like Trovo,
Yeah.
YouTube, things like that. Trovo.live is probably one of the ones I'm gonna try to stream on as well. I might drop a Twitch and hang out for a little bit, kind of see how things work, and try to brush the dust off a little bit, so to speak.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with changing your direction
right,
either, dude. There's nothing
absolutely. I think Trovo would be the first place that I look at, as well as YouTube.
wrong. Okay.
And that's just one of the things where I'm kind of like kicking the can down the road a little bit and saying, like, you know what, I don't want to get too invested in anything, because like I said, there's things that are changing in my household.
Yeah.
Looking to buy a house, looking to kind of get out from where I'm living. We're looking for a house that has an extra room, so to speak, so I can kind of have my own space.
Oh, very cool.
And it's one of the things that a couple years ago, I would have never, my wife would have never factored that in. Like, I think it was after I moved my computer from over there in my room or in the house to here, she was like, I'm trying to look for houses with an office.
Oh.
So you can have your own space. So you can kind of have, like, hey, this is Dad's room. Everybody stay out. This is where the PC is going to be. I'm going to have the second PC set up. I'm going to have the double, like, planning it out how things are going to go.
Yeah.
And kind of not necessarily do things right, but kind of do things where I'm like, you know what, this is a space where it's my own, and not necessarily a man cave, but a man cave, so to speak. So it's one of those things that it's gonna take some time, and like I said, I don't want to get too deep back into streaming and then have to, like, oh, psych, I'm gonna be on another hiatus because we got to set everything up. So depending on how things look, if we're going to wait till spring, if we're going to pull the trigger now, I'm not 100% sure.
Well, when the time is right, man, we'll hopefully see you on our screens very, very soon. DelcoDad, this has been really amazing talking to you, and what an honor it is that, like, you were one of the first few people that were in part of the House of Slowpokes on Twitch, and I kid you not, man, you were part of the time when I got banned for 48 hours. And,
that was hilarious.
We're watching, bro, you guys were watching me watch wrestling, and like that was a sight to see. And then, like, from going from there to being one of the first few people to subscribe to the channel, maybe the first one. I'm not quite sure if I want to put pencil that down, but one of the first people that I've collaborated with to test the waters, to see how well, trying to mesh with other content creators and stuff like that, and to have you here and talk to you, and from one father to another, man, it's just a wonderful sight to see you outside of this crazy world that we do of social media and content creating, that you're doing yourself a better mentally, physically, emotionally, again, not only as a father, a husband, and just a lovely individual like yourself, Delco. So I appreciate you very, very much for taking the time here to spend this podcast recording for season 4 of the Monday Nyquil Podcast Show, man.
Well, man, I really appreciate it. I'll never forget the game that you played. Do you remember what the game was?
Oh man, I played so many, dude. Please refresh.
Last of Us.
Oh, yes.
Yep, I remember that. It was Last of Us, and then we did. I don't know if the little collaboration we did on Rocket League was before or after the first recording session, but yeah, no, it was. It's definitely been a ride, man. It's definitely been a sight to see. It's been interesting, and I really appreciate you, man. Constantly checking in, and like I said, you are not necessarily that, hey, call you on your bullshit type of person, because things happen. But
yeah, of course.
you've definitely been the person like, hey, man, I'm looking to do this. You're more than welcome to come out. You don't have to. And you don't you are definitely an inspiration to many as well as myself, man.
I appreciate that very much, man. Well,